Hi, and warm welcome to our third focus session hosted by Accenture. My name is Fia Bengtsson, and I will moderate you through this session, where we will deep dive into the challenges of keeping women in tech. Did you know that in 1984, the percentage of women in tech were 35%, and today we're down to 32%, despite all the efforts we put into gender diversity initiatives. So clearly, action still needs to be taken. And this is what we will be discussing here today. And with me to present our latest research on the topic, as well as providing their personal reflections, I have Sofie Håkansson and Elisabeth Åkerblom. Warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fia.
But equally important, we have gathered many awesome women in the same virtual space here. And all of you attending our session, I would really like to hear your feedback and thoughts on the topic. So we will interact using Mentimeter throughout the session. And you can also post any questions or any thoughts in the chat, and we will bring this in. So really stay engaged. But then, first, starting with you, Sofie. Who are you and what brings you here today?
Well, thank you, Fia. So what brings me here is I have been working for quite a few years in the tech industry, some 30 years by now. And all this time I've been really engaged in how can women thrive in the tech industry? How do we keep working here? And that has very much engaged me. So that's why I'm here as such. Also a little bit about me. So I live outside Stockholm in Täby. I have 3 grown-up kids, a husband, and when I'm not at work, I like to be outside quite a lot, and I like to play a lot of tennis.
Great, and you're one of our managing directors at Accenture, right?
That's
Working
right.
with our financial services.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I do when I'm not engaged in this. So absolutely right.
Great to have you here, Sophie. And Elisabeth, same to you. What brings you here? Who are you?
Yeah, what brings me here? Well, it's Women in Tech, and I think that's one of the highlights of the year, actually. It's my 3rd time here, and it's also soon my 3rd year at Accenture as well. I belong to our cloud practice within Accenture, working as an analyst. And this topic, which we will be discussing today about keeping women in tech, is something really close to my heart. And during my 3 years, for example, I have never met a single female solution architect, which I think is about time now. And it's something I'm aspiring to be one day. So that's also why I'm here and very interested in this topic as well.
And great to have you both here, really. Yeah. But if we start with you, Sophie, and can you tell us a bit more about our Getting to Equal research? And what are your key highlights?
Yes, so definitely. So first, the overarching purpose of the research is really to see what drives equality in the workplace. So that is good to remember. And then over the past 3 years, we have surveyed about 70,000 people across the world in different industries, in different roles, different levels, to really find out what drives equality. And in doing that, it has allowed us to identify 40 culture factors that impacts the culture of a workplace. So also impacting then the ability of women and men and everyone really in the workplace to thrive. The presence and the strengths of these factors is what determine how inclusive the workplace is. So it's really, really quite intriguing. If you're interested to dive into this, I would recommend that. But these 40 factors are then grouped into 3 areas, which we can see here. So it's bold leadership, comprehensive action, and empowering environments. So that's really 3 things where we see leaders need to stand out and really share what are the numbers we need to have. They need to keep themselves responsible. We need to have policies that promote that. And finally, then also, we need to treat people like humans and really, really respect everyone to feel at home and to feel comfortable in the workplace. So in the respective research, we have 3 main ones that we base this on. So the first one was really to to look at culture impact of the ability to rise, so promotions basically. The second one was about innovation mindset, so how does culture and equality is impacted on innovation. Thirdly, it is to see how culture in your workplace really is perceived differently between leaders and people in the organization. And that's quite amazing. And also to identify culture change makers, very important people. Yeah.
And we've also posted links, or we will post links to the research in our chat, so you can just tab in there and continue reading on it, of course.
Great. And I have 3 concrete examples of the
Yes.
results that I'd like to share.
Of course.
Super. So the first one I would like to share is when we have really good presence, high presence of these culture factors, it was found that women have 6 times more likely to rise to a leading position in a firm than without them. So that's quite a lot of difference. And this also affects men. So they are also more than double the factor to rise. In the culture that drives innovation, we found out an innovation mindset. That's really now, what is that? So it's 6 factors that really look at how willing and able are you to innovate in the workplace. And there it was found out that you are 6 times more likely to be innovative if you're in an inclusive culture. So that's interesting. Finally then, these hidden value of culture makers, the ones I was talking about, they really make a change in the workplace. Important people. However, we found out that only 6% of the leaders can be defined as those culture makers. So we need to see how we can get more of those.
Too few.
Yes, and as well, about 20% only of the leaders who really put culture as a high priority, as compared to, for example, financial performance at almost 80%, talent and quality and brand.
Yeah.
So those were some of the key findings. But then summing it all up, I think you can say that company culture is super important for equality and for people to thrive.
Yeah, so if we fix the culture, we would get sort of the diversity automatically.
That's
more or less.
what we think, yes.
Yeah, we hope
actually,
so.
I mean, we actually think that could come along.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yes.
And Elizabeth, we have complemented this with another research together with Girls Who Code, resetting tech culture. So would you like to take us through this one, and what are your main highlights?
Yes, of course. So resetting tech culture, it's very similar to what you just described, Sophie, and also they're referring to that research as well within resetting tech culture. But the difference is that this one is only focused on the tech industry. So that's the main focus, or the only focus here. So what is it about? Well, it is about the company culture, how it needs to change basically to attract and also to retain women within the industry. So I listed down, I'm going to look at my notes here actually, so I don't say anything incorrectly here, but I listed down some bullet points which I think is important to bring up here in this constellation as well. So one of the things is that 50% of women that enter the tech industry also leaves before they turn 35, which is pretty remarkable. And obviously it raises the question, why? Why is that? And that's no single easy answer, but what stands out here is the environment. And when they have asked women who has left the industry, what it shows is that a non-inclusive environment is the major driver here.
Interesting.
Also, they also talk about the discrepancy between senior leadership and the women within the organization, that they have different perceptions of their inclusive work within the company, and that the senior leaders, they are more likely to say that it's easy for women to thrive in tech, while then if you go out and ask the women within the organization, they're actually not agreeing. So again, this perception gap.
Right.
Yeah. And also to kind of, I don't know, stating the obvious, you have already touched upon it, but like, okay, so why should we even care? I mean, why should we bother? It seems like a lot of work. But studies shows not only these two, which we are referring to today, but a lot of studies shows that diversity drives innovation. It's also reducing biases. And it's shown that it raises tech company shares as well. So I mean, we have everything to gain here.
It's not only creating an inclusive culture; it's also, giving profit to the company. Yeah, which is really important. But Elizabeth, what you said that 50% of all women in tech roles leaves by the age of 35. I mean, that's quite alarming.
Yeah.
You being on the not yet 35.
Not yet.
Not yet. No. What would you say is required to make you stay in tech?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna say culture here maybe a million times during this session, I think. But it's really the easiest answer or the shortest answer to it. I really want a welcoming culture where everyone is seen, no matter your background or your gender or anything like that. That shouldn't be what defines your success. It should be, okay, so here we have Elizabeth or here we have Sophie. We have this set of skills, we have this personality. Then we also happen to be women, but that shouldn't be really what defines our success, I believe. So really a warm, open culture which is welcoming for everyone, I think is really important. And again, how do we achieve that?
Yes.
And that's when people like you, Sophie, come in, where I think role models is really important here, who inspires their colleagues and also their more junior colleagues to be open and transparent, and are also very open to all sorts of questions that might be asked. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you
That's what
mentioned
I
really a lot of important factors here, the culture, role models, and everything. But I would like to get some input from you in the audience. I see we already have some question coming in, and I will try to cover these during the session. But first, I would love for you to tap into our Mentimeter functionality. We have the code posted in the chat. So open your phones and tap into our Mentimeter and let us know whether you have considered leaving the tech industry due to the work culture. And also feel free to comment or put any thoughts to your answers in the chat as well. And coming back to this then, Sophie, on the other side of 35.
Right. Slightly.
Slightly on the other
Yes.
side. Have you ever considered leaving the tech industry, and what made you stay in that case?
Right. So I have always been challenged, I find, in my roles that I've had throughout my career. Change and always learning is really attractive and important to me. And I've gotten that quite a lot. And technology is also such an integral part of the businesses. Nowadays it's like what is business and what is technology. So that has really made me want to stay. However, there has been times when I also have felt that there's a lot of pressure and maybe I want to do something different. At that time, though, because things are not always easy, and that's important for us to recognize. I have gotten a lot of good support from my family and from my employers with flexibility of work, maybe some different roles, and just people understanding the situation. So that's, I think, is important to ask for help. So that I would like to, all of you listening out there, if you're considering leaving, please state what it is you want changed. Ask for help and see if that can maybe make you stay in the tech industry. We want you here.
Yeah, and actually one question that just came in from the audience as well. I would like to know if you have any examples of senior managers in Accenture who joined after 15 years or more of industrial experience. Like, I was just thinking, you joined as a senior manager,
Yes,
right? So
exactly.
wasn't that true?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, here we have one example.
Yes. So
How was that?
Right. So I had been almost 20, well, how many? Well, many years, more than 15 when I joined Accenture 10 years ago. And that was, I mean, to me, it was very exciting. It was a little bit hard, but it was also good because people were extremely helpful, I think. I could always ask questions, and no one would say, holding things back, but I felt extremely welcome. So I think it's important, again then, to ask for help and not be shy for that.
Yeah, but then that was an example, at least. But then I want to see if we have any results from our first Mentimeter questions. So let's have a look. Okay, so basically, have you considered leaving the tech industry? 53% saying yes, and I think that's way too many, right? And I'm really happy that 46% of you have not considered leaving, and let's hope that stays the case. But if you're one of those that have considered leaving, do please listen to the tips from Sophie to really ask for help and make sure that you communicate what you need to stay in the tech industry. Great, thank you.
And maybe we can even ask if you could put in the chat what would make you stay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, what would make you stay? That would be
great if you could help us with some of that.
Great, but then moving on. We talked about mentors and role models, Elizabeth, and that's an important factor in both the researchers, and you also mentioned it. Would you say that you have the mentors and role models that you need to thrive in tech?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of inspiring people within Accenture, within our own organization, but obviously, which I have already pointed out, there is a lack of solution architects, for example, which is something I want to move in that direction. But sometimes I don't think there is any lack of competence amongst women. I think it's quite the opposite. We have all the competence, but so people saying that they don't exist, that's not true. You just have to look, broaden the spectra to find them in that case. And I think this event is a great example where you can find a lot of inspiring people. And what I try to do is that at events like this, it's like, okay, I meet someone which is super inspiring, I get a new contact, and then I feel like, okay, but wow, okay, so how can I bring this into my organization and into my work? So yes, I do have the role models, mentors, leaders, etc. But sometimes they are not just underneath my nose. Sometimes I have to look further.
Yeah, so take the opportunity today here at Women in Tech to find people that really inspires you and make them your role models or mentors. And there, we would again like to get your input on the next one. So do you feel that you have a female role model or mentor within your organization? Or are you lacking one, basically? So please have an answer to that. I can also see that we have got some comments on what would make you stay in tech. And we have, for example, get promoted, of course, important. Promotion and inclusion. And yeah, the lack of inclusion could be a factor wanting you to leave, basically. So it really corresponds to the research there, I see as well. Great. But then, Sophie, how do you actively engage as a mentor? And in what way in that case?
So I hope that I am, and that's my aim at least, to be a role model in the everyday work that we do with our clients and with our teams and really every day. And that's the basic thing, because I think it's good to have someone there all the time. I take the opportunities to listen, to learn from everyone in the team, and also to share and share my experiences. So it's always a give and take. I think it's important. I'm also the sponsor of the Women's Network at Accenture and our mental well-being program. So and I also try to take the opportunities if you can share. For example, we had this podcast series at Accenture some time ago, and there you got the opportunities to share things that have gone well and maybe things that did not go that well. And I think that's really important, and I try to do that, to also share things which are not going well, because things are not always a piece of cake. It can be really tough sometimes. But then it's good that you can have colleagues who can help you.
So be open and transparent and personal, basically. Yeah, to be a good role model.
Yeah.
Cool. And let's have a look at the results that we've got from the Mentimeter. No, we see how 60% of you have responded are stating that you don't have a mentor or a role model, a female one, and would like one. So then again, I mean, take the opportunity here at Women in Tech to reach out. And it doesn't have to be maybe a woman within your organization, look further. And I believe also if you are a woman in tech, think about that you are really could be a mentor and a role model for example, students coming into tech or more junior colleagues in your company. So really take that opportunity as well, I'd like to say. Great. But then, Sophie, both our researchers show talk about this perception gap where senior leaders or senior HR leaders think that they're more inclusive, but the employees don't really agree.
Right.
How can we address that?
Yes, that's really important to address. And I think but leaders need to be closer to people in the organization. So to really, really interact, not only through surveys. So surveys are good, but that won't really cut it. I think you need to go out, maybe have focus groups, dare to sit down and ask questions that you might not want to have the answer, but you need the answer. And you need to also create the environment so people can feel safe to really give you and tell you what it's really like. So that's some of the things I think we need to do.
And are we measuring diversity at Accenture, and how are we doing?
Yes, we are. So I'm actually quite proud. We were one of the first companies that publicized our targets for diversity. You can find them at accenture.com. So we shared that we wanted to be 50-50 by 2025. And we wanted to have 25% managing directors by 2020, so last year. And we're doing okay. We are at 45% women at the moment overall, and we have 25% of managing directors, so we have come to that. And in addition, we actually have 42% of our board of directors are women as well. So that's maybe something you don't really think about, but we're doing
but that's
quite well.
important to measure as well.
Yes.
And like how you're running the company, right?
Right. Yeah. And here in Sweden, we have a little bit more to go, but we are at 41%, so quite good, and all 50-50 in all the people that we recruit.
Okay, good. But then if we want to start to wrap up, we're already running out of time. Okay. Elizabeth, what would you say are your key takeaways? What would you encourage our audience to start doing already tomorrow?
Yes, I guess this is when I should say something very inspiring here.
Yes.
Okay. But I guess I would turn then to the audience, the people listening, and I really want to encourage you to stay in tech because we need you guys and dare to stand in the forefront of tech, really. That's what I want to say.
Sophie, your last thoughts and takeaways?
I think I would like to ask all of you to read the research that we got posted in the chat. Take it to your leaders, to your organization, and challenge everyone and say, how inclusive is your culture? And actually there you can find some good things to start doing.
Great. And with these actions, we need to wrap up this session. But do jump into our session discussion room if you want to continue talking to Sophie and Elizabeth after this. There were some additional questions that we didn't have time to cover yet. And I really hope that you're all eager to continue this conversation at your clients or in your organization. And you can really leverage the research we have to go in and check. Not only does it contain interesting figures and facts around diversity, but also really specific action on how to make your create a culture of equality and an inclusive workplace. I also want to make just a short shout out for our after talk and mingle that we will have a little bit later, and make sure to jump into that one as well. And with that, we will end with a sort of an inspiring video on how we can really create an inclusive culture if we collaborate together. So thank you, and thanks to you, Sophie and Elizabeth, for joining today.
Thank you.
This can bring everyone in and lift everyone up. This can give new voices a way to be heard and new ideas a place to thrive. This can take what each of us does best and give it incredible power. This can erase the limits we see and the labels we feel. This can grow new leaders and endless opportunities. This can make us even more confident, more capable, and more committed. This can create wonders and huge rewards. This is a culture of equality. We call the ones who light the way the culture makers. And to make this a reality, it has to be a priority. For leaders, for all of us.